Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. This is Tausif, and I am back with a new live stream. My friends, it's Sunday evening, and as I spent the day at home, I was thinking about a wide variety of things affecting our country and our world. And I was thinking about a wide range of topics, including the mayoral race in New York City. Highly publicized mayoral race in New York City. By the way, if you are from New York, if you're watching this and you are from New York, please introduce yourself in the live chat window and let us all know. And we want to hear your thoughts about the mayoral race. And I'm going to be sharing my thoughts, which is why I'm doing this live stream. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot going on. And I'm going to be sharing my thoughts. I want to hear what you have to say. By the way, there's also a poll question that you can see in the live chat. The question is, do you support or oppose Zohran Mamdani in the New York City mayoral race? I want to hear your thoughts on this. So you can choose support, you can choose oppose, and towards the end of the live stream, I'm going to share the results. My friends, if you want to look at complete dysfunction, you just have to look at New York City. New York City is heading towards the ditch. New York City is going downhill when you pay attention to what's happening in that city. New York City is completely out of control. It is being run by left-wing losers, left-wing politicians who are honestly, they're losers. The only way, it seems, the only way to get elected, or the only way they get elected, those left-wing politicians, is because of left-wing voters of New York City who have decided to choose insanity over sanity. That's right. All those left-wing voters in New York City, all those voters who, they don't pay attention to the policy ideas and the policy proposals of the various candidates. They just go to the ballot box and they choose the left-wing politicians. They just choose the Democrats. Those voters, what have they done? They have decided to choose insanity over sanity. When you look at the complete picture, when you look at the collective picture, collectively, when collectively people vote for liberals, they vote for socialists, then you end up in a mess. And who do you blame? If the voters are voting for the liberal politicians, they're voting for the socialists, they're voting for left-wing politicians, and then when those people get elected and they make a mess, who do you blame? There are many New Yorkers, many New York residents, many New York voters who vote for common sense conservatives, who vote for individuals who make rational choices. But it's not the majority of the voters. The common sense conservative voters are not the majority in New York City, which is why New York City is the mess that it is. The results of electing liberal losers are what we see in New York. What do we see in New York City? Can you tell me, my friends? What do we see? We see crimes, we see corruption, we see overall decline in the quality of life. We see higher taxes. We see high cost of living. Why? Why? because the people keep electing liberal losers. Financially, the city is looking at budget gaps. New York City, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And there seems to be no solution. Surely there's no solution if the voters of New York City just keep electing the same type of left-wing politicians. Left-wing politicians after left-wing politicians after left-wing politicians. One left-wing politician leaves, the other one comes in. If you keep electing left-wing politicians, you cannot expect fiscal sanity. You cannot expect common sense policies. It seems to me that things are not going to remain the same. Things are going to change in New York. The situation in New York is pretty bad, but things are going to change. But no, don't think that things are going to get better. It seems that things may be getting a lot worse in New York. And I'll tell you why. In case you're wondering, like, Tausif, what is going on? Why are you saying that things are going to get a lot worse in New York City? Well, because the New York City voters may end up electing a radical socialist. You know who I'm talking about. I'm going to mention the name. You've heard the name. You've heard the name, Zohran Mamdani. Radical socialist. You've seen his photo. You've probably listened to some of his interviews. And when you look at him, what do you see? You see a young man. You see a guy who seems to have energy. He's smiling. And you might think that you're looking at an educated, sensible, young, energetic guy who wants to implement good public policy. Is that what he looks like? Well, let me tell you, my friends, looks can be deceiving. Haven't you heard that before? I'm not the first one telling you this, that looks can be deceiving. You've heard that, right? The truth about Zohran Mamdani is that he's a radical socialist. Most of what this man proposes in terms of policies is anti-American. And the fact that Zohran Mamdani won the Democratic primary in the mayoral race in New York City, on one hand, it is shocking. It is shocking. I mean, people are wondering, like, how did he win? It is so shocking. On the other hand, it is not shocking at all. You know why? Because the Democrat Party has been moving towards socialism for a very long time. That's the direction that they have been going. They have been moving, the Democrat Party has been moving towards socialism. And so now you have Zohran Mamdani, frontrunner, you could say, in the mayoral race, a radical socialist. And if you thought that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is far left, she is far left. Yeah, AOC. She's far left. Yeah, if you thought that AOC is far left, well, Mamdani's socialist policies are left-wing policies on steroids, okay? Mamdani is more socialist than socialist AOC. Do you agree with that? If you don't agree with my assessment, you can let me know. Okay? If you have different viewpoints, you can let me know that. You're free to write your comments in the live chat, my friends. My friend Bree says agree. Thank you, Bree. Bree, good to see you. I see lots of viewers here. Enlightenment, Bree, and Frank. Frank's here, and others. Esther. Charisse is here. Hi, Charisse. So if you think that AOC is far left-wing, Mamdani is further left-wing. Mamdani's policies are socialist policies on steroids. This man, Zohran Mamdani, he wants to defund the police. That's his push. He wants to defund the police. Mamdani's proposed policies will result in the eradication of private grocery stores. Mamdani wants to have city-run grocery stores, meaning private grocery stores will be pushed out of the market. That's what's going to happen. When you have government taking more and more control of things in the market, the private sector loses. Private grocery stores, you know what they do? They compete. Private grocery stores are businesses, for-profit businesses. They compete. They have to provide quality services and offer products at competitive prices to attract customers and to remain in business. That's what the private grocery stores do. But they also have to make a profit. And that's part of doing business. Making a profit is okay. Making a profit is fine. It's great. When you make a profit, you can expand. You can hire more people. You can grow. You can provide better products, better services. Making a profit is fine. As long as the prices are competitive, you make profit. That's fine. Profit is a good thing. Profit is what the economy runs on. But if you ask Zohran Mamdani, he's going to have a different view of profits. He probably thinks profits are wrong. That's why he wants to have city-run grocery stores. You have to make a profit if you are a business. It's why people do business. But if Mamdani uses American tax dollars to have city-run grocery stores, then you are likely going to see private grocery stores losing business and eventually being forced to close their doors. I just want people to think about these two issues. My friends, I want you to think about these two issues. I want you to think about Mamdani's policy of defunding the police and Mamdani's proposal of establishing city-run grocery stores. I'll talk more about different things, but I want to discuss these two things first. My friends, there are many legal immigrant families in New York City. Legal, those who are here legally. Families that wish to live in peace. Families that want to build a better life for themselves. Families that have become U.S. citizens through the legal process. These immigrant families, they want safe communities. They want safe neighborhoods. They want their children to be safe. It would be absolutely ridiculous for immigrant families to vote for Zohran Mamdani. If you live in New York City, my friends, if you live in New York City and you have a spouse, you have a child, you have older parents, or you have siblings, or you have friends, or you have neighbors you care about, if you want them to be safe, if you want them to be in a nice environment, it would be absolutely impossible to vote for a man who wants to defund the police. Anyone who says defund the police is clearly advocating for chaos. No one in the right mind will ever advocate for defunding the police. If you are in your senses, if you can think, if you are a rational human being, if you understand what's going on around you, if you can process the reality in which we live, there's no way you can support defunding the police. And so to all those people who have voted for Zohran Mamdani primary, you have to ask yourself, do you really wish to see a community without police? without any law enforcement agency? Is that what you want? You want your city to not have any police? You want your city to not have any kind of law enforcement agency? Do you want to see chaos in your city? Do you want to see disorder? Do you want to see lawlessness in your city? Think about your spouse. Think about your children. Think about your older parents, your siblings and friends and neighbors. Do you want them to be in a city that does not have law enforcement agency? Those who voted for Zohran Mamdani, that's what you voted for. There's no way to sugarcoat this. This is the fact. If you voted for Zohran Mamdani, if you voted in the primary for Zohran Mamdani, and if you wish to vote for Zohran Mamdani in the general election that's coming up, that's what you're voting for. You're voting for chaos. You're voting for a city without police. Eric is here. Hello, Eric. And Meg is here. Hello, Meg. My friends, if you're tuning in, please make sure you like this video. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe if you have not done so already. My friends, please subscribe. What is it going to be then? What is it going to be? A community without any mechanism to fight crime? A community without any rule of law? A complete dystopia? Is that what you want? Is that what you're going to vote for? We have seen, my friends, we have seen what the illegal immigrants have done to New York City in broad daylight. In broad daylight, there was prostitution going on in New York. We've seen those reports. Neighborhoods that turned into red light district in New York City. Streets became extremely unsafe. And you can look all this information up. There are concerns, even today, there are concerns about prostitution taking place in New York City. And this is happening in AOC's congressional district. And think about what that means for the peace-loving families. Think about the immigrant families, the legal immigrants who are here in the United States. They are in New York City. They just want to live in peace. They want safe communities, safe neighborhoods. They want safe streets. They want an environment in which their children can live and thrive. But if there's crime, if there's drug dealing, if there's human trafficking, if there's prostitution, it's not safe for anyone. It's not safe for anyone. People don't feel safe to go outside if there's crime, if there are illegal activities taking place in their area. They don't feel safe walking in the neighborhoods if crimes are widespread. And so if Mamdani becomes the mayor of New York City and he defunds the police, who's going to fight human trafficking and prostitution? Who's going to fight drug smuggling? Who's going to catch the criminals? Who's going to fight crime? Who's going to put the criminals behind bars if there's no police? You know what's going to happen if Mamdani becomes the mayor and he defunds the police? The criminals are going to feel emboldened. Neighborhoods will not be livable anymore. And so to all the immigrant families, to all those immigrants who are in the United States legally, and you're here to work hard, you're here to get education, you're here to pursue a better life, you're here to pursue the American dream, let me tell you, the city will turn into a complete mess if Zohran Mamdani becomes the mayor. It'll be full of crimes and criminals. If Mamdani becomes the mayor and he defunds the police, New York City will become unsafe. And also, let me talk about city-owned grocery stores. You want to talk about that? You want to talk about city-run grocery stores? Do you know that many grocery stores in New York City are owned and operated by legal immigrant families? Do you know that? Many immigrants, legally, they come to the US, not the ones who just jump across the border, not the ones who overstay their visas, not the ones who cross through the southern border and the northern border. I'm not talking about the illegal ones. I'm talking about the legal immigrants. They come to the United States and they want to set up a business. They want to provide high quality products and services, and they want to make a profit. They want to hire people. They want to grow and thrive and expand and succeed and pursue prosperity. And many of those immigrants, the legal immigrants, they end up starting grocery stores. They go into the grocery store business. They open a store. They get customers. They treat the customers well. They greet the customers. They provide great products and services, like I said. And in New York, because New York is a diverse city. Not just New York, same in Chicago, same in Los Angeles, same in all these big cities. You're going to see many grocery stores being owned and operated by immigrants. And it's great that legal immigrants are running these businesses and they're contributing to the growth and success of the United States of America. They're providing the products that people want and customers are happy. Now imagine what is going to happen if Zohran Mamdani establishes city-run grocery stores. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? If Zohran Mamdani establishes city-run grocery stores, there's a big philosophical issue here, my friends. You cannot let the government take more and more control of the private market. No, that is unacceptable. We don't want to see that. Government already intervenes very heavily in the private market. And more so in Democrat-run cities and states. So if Mamdani, Zohran Mamdani, the radical socialist, if he becomes the mayor of New York City and he establishes city-run grocery stores, then immigrant-owned grocery stores are going to suffer tremendously. In fact, immigrant-run grocery stores and grocery stores in general may go out of business. Zohran Mamdani's policies will drive private grocery stores out of the market. But having a government-run grocery store, some people might say, oh, if it's a government-run grocery store, if it's a city-run grocery store, then prices are going to be lower. No. Having a government-run grocery store doesn't mean that prices will be lower in the long term. Initially, it might, but over the long term, prices will be higher. You know why? Because government is not going to negotiate like a private business does. In the private sector, what happens? In the private sector, producers and manufacturers and suppliers and retailers, they negotiate. And the negotiation is driven by profit motive. Everyone wants to keep costs low, and they want to make a profit as an incentive to keep being in business. But if a grocery store is run by the government, then there's not going to be a mechanism to negotiate and to keep prices down. Because there's not going to be any competition, there's not going to be any profit motive, which means no negotiation, no competition, and prices will be higher in the long term. People will suffer. Customers will suffer. New Yorkers will suffer. That's what's going to happen. New Yorkers will suffer if there are city-run grocery stores. And by then, private grocery stores would be out of business. And the community will suffer. The only thing left will be the city-run grocery stores, and immigrant-owned businesses will suffer. Mamdani's policies will destroy the American dream because his policies will lead to poverty. My friends, I want to hear from you. Do you agree with what I said? Do you agree with my viewpoints, or do you have different thoughts? Do you look at the situation differently, or exactly as I'm looking at it? Mamdani's policies will destroy the American dream. There'll be widespread poverty in New York City if Mamdani becomes the mayor. And talking about the American dream, let me talk about housing, my friends. Zohran Mamdani, the radical socialist, he has thoughts on housing. Oh yeah, he does. He has awful policies and proposals. Mamdani is going to freeze rents. If you're a tenant, you live in an apartment, you live in a house, you have to pay rent to the landlord. And what Zohran Mamdani is proposing is he's going to freeze rents. Now, to any person who has any idea about economics, it's completely unacceptable. If you don't know economics, if you don't understand how the private market works, if you don't understand demand and supply, if you don't understand the housing market, then it might sound good to you, what Mamdani is proposing. You might think, oh, freeze rents, that's great. But only if you don't understand economics. Now, some might say, oh, what a relief it'll be. Rents will be frozen. No increase in rent. Sounds great, huh? Sounds great. You really think so? My friends, you have to look beneath the surface. You have to look at the economic mechanism. Freezing rents will not solve the housing problem. It will likely lead to black market. It'll lead to a parallel economy. You know what's going to happen? Many landlords will try to find tenants and charge them higher prices, but without any lease paperwork. The contract will be simply word of mouth. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. If Mamdani forces a rent freeze, then landlords, they will find tenants and charge higher prices and not sign any legal paperwork. And you know what? It's already a problem in New York City, and it's just going to get worse. There are many homeowners in New York City who have tenants in their single-family homes without any lease paperwork, without any officially written contract, just word of mouth. Are you familiar with this? Are you familiar with this? Do you know what I'm talking about? It happens. Bree is saying yes. My friends, an owner of a single-family home may find tenants and rent out different rooms in the house. Are you familiar with this issue? It happens. It happens in New York City. It happens in other places. Audrey is here. Hello, Audrey. Good to see you. Our friend Audrey just joined. Audrey is from New York State. We're talking about New York. My friends, it happens. It is very common in New York. And those who live in New York, our friends from New York, they may be able to speak on this. There are many unofficial contracts in New York without any lease paperwork, without any officially written contract. The owner of a single family home is supposed to be for a single family, right? An owner of a single family home may rent out different rooms to multiple tenants. It happens in New York. You may have a tenant living in the attic. There may be someone living in one of the bedrooms. Somebody may live in the basement. Somebody may live in some other part of the house. So what you may end up seeing is the owner of the home, the landlord, may rent out different parts of a single family home to maybe 3 or 4 or 5 other individuals or families. It happens. And there's no lease, there's no paperwork. It does happen. It's a very common practice in New York. You can't really keep track of it because there's no paperwork. And I know, because I know many things that happen in New York. From different people, I've gotten a lot of information about things that happen in New York. There are also instances where somebody may live in the kitchen. Now, my friends, let me tell you, so you may have a single family home with a homeowner, and you may have 10 other people living in the house. Now, unofficial contracts are always there. If you live in a big house, you own your home, and you allow somebody to live in your house for a rent, it does happen. But there's a limit to that. After a certain point, it can become hazardous. If you have a small home and overcrowding of various tenants living in various portions of the house, then it may be a hazard. And that's what I'm talking about. If Zohran Mamdani becomes the mayor and he implements rent freeze, there's going to be more transactions happening off the books. There'll be more landlord-tenant interactions and contracts for which there's not going to be any paperwork. And if that results in overcrowding in these homes, and if there's an incident, let's say a fire or some other hazard, and the fire department has to respond, there may be a very big issue. So my friends, that's what I'm concerned about. That Zohran Mamdani's policy will lead to overcrowding in private homes. Because of rent freeze, more people will move towards unofficial contracts. And prices will still go up. Rent will still go up. And it'll lead to overcrowding in private homes. And I'm not talking about somebody living in one part of the home and renting out another part of the home. Somebody living on the ground floor and renting out the upper floor. I'm not talking about somebody living in the ground floor, the first floor, the main level, call it main level, and renting out the basement. I'm talking about when you have a homeowner who has a tenant in the attic, who has tenants in the basement, who has tenants in other parts of the home, and you have 5 households living in a single family home. That's a hazard. I hope it makes sense what I'm talking about. If you disagree with me, you can let me know. So my friends, there's one other issue I want to point out. And this also happens quite a bit. There are abuses that take place. Maybe somebody is leasing part of a single family home from the landlord. Without paperwork, the landlord might turn off the heat. The landlord might turn off the hot water to save money. And then the tenants suffer. It happens quite a bit. It happens in New York. And it happens in other big cities, and you may have heard examples of these issues. And you know, there are cases where a landlord may throw somebody out of the home just on a day's notice. And if there's no legal paperwork, there may not be a legal route for the tenants to fight that. So there are many problems that happen. Many people become victims. And what this rent freeze is going to do, if Mamdani wins, he becomes the mayor and he imposes a rent freeze, it's going to make problems worse. Do you remember one case last year? Do you remember one case when dozens of migrants were found living in the basement of a furniture store in Queens? Do you remember that? My friends from New York. Who's here from New York? Let's see. Audrey is here from New York. Audrey, do you remember that one case? I think I talked about it on my channel. There were dozens and dozens of migrants. They were found living in the basement of a furniture store. Not even a residential structure. It's a furniture store. It's a commercial space in Queens. Audrey remembers that. It was all over the news. I talked about it on my channel. Jet is here. Hi, Jet. What a horrible case that was. Now, that's a case that was uncovered. But there are many other cases in New York that authorities have not been able to detect. AC Cruz is here. AC, good to see you. Many people in New York have no respect for the rule of law. They just completely disregard laws and rules. They do whatever they want. There are no words to describe the things that happen in New York City. When authorities find dozens of migrants living in the basement of a furniture store, what can I say? You draw your own conclusion. How would you describe that? Audrey is talking about a bunch of cases like that on Long Island. Yeah, there are lots of problems in not just New York City, but outside of New York City as well. So when Mamdani says he's going to freeze rent, understand one thing. It means that the problems are going to get a whole lot worse. Freezing rent means that landlords may then try to figure out other ways to extract higher payments from the tenants, but it'll be off the books. You won't see it on paper. Government intervention doesn't necessarily solve a problem. In many cases, government intervention exacerbates problems. Yes, high rent, high cost of housing is an issue in New York. But that means you try to meet the demand by making more homes, by coming up with market-based solutions, not rent freezes. Not rent freezes. If there's high demand, you increase supply. If people need more homes, then supply more homes. Cut red tape so that people can build more structures. Freezing rent is not going to help. It's going to make the problems worse. So what Zohran Mamdani plans to do will worsen the existing problems. The housing market will collapse. Renters will suffer. Landlords will suffer too. If you want to lower rent, then there has to be adequate supply of homes. When American citizens struggle to pay rent, to pay mortgage, illegal immigrants, remember, illegal immigrants got free housing in hotels. Remember that? Marjorie is saying kick out illegals. Absolutely. So what Zohran Mamdani plans to do will worsen the existing problems. In fact, supply of rental properties will decrease because of rent freeze. People will not have the incentive to invest in a rental property and offering the property for rent to potential tenants. Life in New York City will become extremely difficult financially if Zohran Mamdani becomes the mayor. Now, my friends, let me also touch on some other very important issues, all pertaining to Mamdani. I'm going to talk about this. So we know that Zohran Mamdani is a Muslim, and that is generating a lot of support for him among the Muslim population in New York. However, I must point out that the Muslim community does not support transgender-related medical procedures for minors. The Muslim community, because of their strong faith, the Muslim community does not accept and does not promote transgender rights. The Muslim community does not put up pride flags. In fact, just a couple of years ago, in Michigan, the Hamtramck City Council members voted unanimously to restrict the city from flying any religious, ethnic, racial, political, or sexual orientation group flags on public grounds. What this means is banning the flying of pride flags. And do you know what's significant about Hamtramck, Michigan? It's a heavily Muslim community. The Muslims don't want their kids to venture out into this whole transgender and LGBTQ stuff. And the Muslims have every right to reject the transgender agenda because of their faith. And there are many other religious groups that reject all this woke transgender stuff. And also, let me tell you, the Hamtramck, Michigan mayor, back in 2024, Mr. Amir Ghalib, that's the mayor, Amir Ghalib, Muslim mayor of Hamtramck, Michigan, he endorsed Donald J. Trump because Donald Trump is the leader who has fought and continues to fight to protect religious liberty. And we know that President Donald J. Trump nominated Mayor Amir Ghalib to be the ambassador, U.S. ambassador to Kuwait. And then another mayor, Mayor Bill Bazzi of Dearborn Heights, Michigan, also a Muslim man, has been selected by President Trump to be the ambassador, U.S. ambassador to Tunisia. And remember, the highly respected Muslim leaders of Michigan endorsing President Trump, because the Muslim community does not believe in all these woke nonsense. The Muslim community has traditional values. They believe in two genders, male and female. They believe in common sense. They don't believe in transgender activism. And here's a fact about Zohran Mamdani. Mamdani, who is also a Muslim, but he says that he would spend $65 million of taxpayer money to fund transgender treatment if he is elected to be the mayor of New York City. Wow. Zohran Mamdani, he would spend $65 million of taxpayer money to fund transgender treatment if he's elected to be the mayor of New York City. Zohran Mamdani's campaign says that if elected mayor, Mamdani will expand and protect gender-affirming care citywide. What does that mean? That is so shocking. And this should be enough reason for the Muslim voters in New York City to reject Zohran Mamdani. The Mamdani administration will budget $65 million in funding to explicitly support and expand access to gender-affirming care in New York City. It will direct, the Mamdani administration will direct $57 million off to public hospitals, community clinics, federally qualified health centers, and nonprofits providing gender-affirming care. Wow. Shocking. It says the Mamdani administration will also hold private hospital systems denying gender-affirming care accountable. If Mamdani is elected, his administration will force transgender policies on the people of New York, including the Muslim community. So my friends, New York City's Muslim voters, if you're listening to me, Muslim voters in New York City, please follow the actions of the Muslim voters in Michigan. Reject this left-wing candidate whose woke policies will destroy New York City. Follow what the Muslim voters in Michigan did. What did the Muslim voters in Michigan do? They voted for Donald J. Trump. They embraced common sense policies. The Muslim voters in Michigan, they voted for common sense. They voted for religious freedom. They voted for traditional values. They voted for two genders, not 3, not 4, not 10. Two genders, male and female. So the Muslim voters in New York must follow the actions of the Muslim voters in Michigan and reject Zohran Mamdani and his woke policies. Bree is from Michigan. Bree, aren't you happy that Donald J. Trump won Michigan? And he did so with the support of the Muslim community. That's what we need in New York. The Muslim voters in New York must reject Zohran Mamdani. Muslim voters in New York City, follow your faith and reject this man named Zohran Mamdani, whose transgender policies will be in violation of your religious beliefs. My friends, New York City has economic problems. New York City also has public safety problems. And now, There's a spiritual crisis that may be taking place, that may already be there in New York City. Here's what the voters of New York City should do. They must look deep within their hearts, and they must ask their own selves the questions. Do you want to elect a mayor who will diminish freedom and impose more government control in the private market? Do you want to elect a mayor whose policies will hurt immigrant-run private businesses? Do you want to elect a mayor whose policies will destroy the housing market in New York City? I know that there are many people in New York who favor Zohran Mamdani, and that's why he won the Democrat primary. People are making the wrong decision here. Some favor Mamdani because he's young. People are tired of old politicians. I understand that. They want to see someone young, so they prefer Mamdani. Some people prefer Mamdani because of his multicultural background. Some people are voting for him because of his immigrant background. Well, being young is great. Having a multicultural, diverse background is great. You're adding to the nation's diversity. That's great. Being an immigrant and now a candidate for public office is great. But here's the most important thing. What are your policies? What are your beliefs? What are you offering to the voters? If you're offering common sense policy solutions, then that's great. But if you're offering more wokeness and more government control, that is not okay. That must be rejected. And the policies that Zohran Mamdani supports will lead to chaos. Mamdani's ideas will result in lawlessness on the streets of New York City. Mamdani's proposals will violate the religious freedom of the Muslims and the religious freedom of other people from other religious backgrounds who oppose transgender woke stuff. Mamdani's policies will ruin the New York City economy. There will be public safety crisis if he defunds the police, and there will be spiritual crisis. I'm not a fan of Eric Adams, and I think my friends know that. I have criticized Mayor Eric Adams many times. I criticized his poor governance, and I also think that Cuomo is an extremely bad candidate. Now, reportedly, he's running as an independent. He's an extremely poor candidate, Andrew Cuomo. He's a failed politician trying to make a comeback. Eric Adams, I'm not a fan of him. Andrew Cuomo, absolutely not. But Zohran Mamdani, he will combine all the bad policies that you can think of and then put them on steroids. New York City will be devastated if Zohran Mamdani becomes the mayor. My friends, I've got a poll that I'm conducting. Do you support or oppose Zohran Mamdani in the New York City mayoral race? 74% said oppose so far. Overwhelmingly, people oppose Zohran Mamdani. My friends, share with me your thoughts. I would appreciate that very much. I told you what I had to say, and that's all I have. That's all I have. I'm going to end the poll and report the results. 72% said they oppose Zohran Mamdani in the New York City mayoral race. That's all I have for this live stream. I hope that my message reaches the New York City voters. I hope more and more people watch this live stream, replay this. So make sure that you're liking this. Make sure you are sharing this. Share this widely with your network of friends, my friends. Share with me your thoughts. Thank you all. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it very much. And I'm going to be back again with more videos and more live streams. LK, good to see you, LK. Thanks for being here. Thank you, my friends, for spending an hour with me on a Sunday evening. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. AC Cruz, always good to see you. Thank you. Also, for those who have not done so already, I would invite you to please visit my website, okay? tausifanam.net. Go check out my website. I would appreciate that. And if you want to send me a message through my website, please do so. Audrey, thank you for joining us from Long Island. So good to see you. And Jet and Bree. Bree, always good to see you. And Frank and LK. LK, it's been a while since I've seen you, LK. Thanks for being here. And others. Fred is here too. Missed greeting Fred. Fred, thanks for being here. All right. Thank you, my friends. I'll try to do as many live streams as I can, but if I'm not doing live streams, but only publishing pre-recorded podcast episodes, please do watch those as well and send me your comments, all right? Thank you, my friends. Please email me. I'm going to give you my email address, tausif@tausifnam.net. Please email me as well. Thank you, my friends. I'm going to be back again soon with more videos and more live stream. Have a great rest of the evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.